Good morning, Warriors! Back with another episode of Vigor Warriors 2 with your host, Vigor Warriors 2. Hope you guys doing well today. Today is June 21st, 2022. Hope you guys had a nice day yesterday. The weather's a lot cooler in the morning. In the Midwest here, it's getting a little warm in the afternoon, but that's okay. We're good for exercising and losing weight and doing stuff around the yard. I'm on the way to teach this morning, so I wanted to kind of do one. Thank you guys for all the subscriptions, the comments, the likes, all those type of things. It is greatly appreciated, and I appreciate all the comments and things that you guys give. Please continue doing that. And I always try to take questions and then go through some of these things because I find that it helps me kind of give more clarity to my situation, but hopefully also kind of give some insight and help as you guys teach me about certain things as well. So Dex had a nice comment, and I want to kind of ask about and talk about this a little bit. He had a nice comment to talk about a concept called Christ consciousness. And I think I'm actually going to do two on this one. I'll probably do one today and maybe one tomorrow. There's a lot to this one. But let me kind of just briefly kind of talk about basic ideas here first. So we talk about Christ consciousness. Now, where have I heard this term and why did I come up with this? Well, years ago, I read the Autobiography of Malcolm X, and looking at a lot of the research and everything that he was talking about, things that he was talking about, he took many years, I think it was 12, to really reach God's consciousness, or God within him. God is within you all the time. No matter what religion you're studying and everything, God is still within you. And your creator, whatever you want to call that person that's within you, has created you. So no one is removed from that. As a human being. So the key is that you really want to eventually reach that frequency or that consciousness that your creator, your God, is with. And so as I read this from Malcolm X, and he did 12 years of this, I totally understand that. And I've been battling these type of things for many, many years, going back and forth, and now making a commitment to try to reach those 12 years as best possible as I can. But I also wanted to respect and give a lot of respect out to Dex and do a little more research on this. And so over the years, I actually have read a couple books and focused on a couple different things. And I found one recently as well called I Am the Word. And that's by, and I think his name is Paul. Yeah, Paul Selig. Last name is Seliq, and Paul's his first name. And what I'll do is I'll put that reference in the description so you guys can kind of see that and maybe pull out that book and look at that. So there's a number of different things that we're going to focus on within this book. That it's kind of a good summary of ideas that talk about what's really happening here. So I'm going to go over a few of these today, and we're going to do them more practically probably tomorrow, but I just kind of want to go through some of these as we look at this. And so the first thing to recognize from what I gathered with this, and even going back to the Autobiography of Malcolm X, which is another one that you should probably take a look at, and I'll probably reference that as well. But the idea that you really kind of want to look at is you want to focus on the fact that as humans right now, we operate on a very low frequency level. Now, we talk a lot on these broadcasts about energy, right? We talk a lot about the fact that, you want to save your energy and you want to operate on a higher level. And so your frequency and energy kind of are the same thing. Frequency is the level of energy that you have. And so as you really look at people around you, most people are operating on a very low energy level. They're not really thinking about higher concepts, even God, even higher visions and things like that. A lot of times, they're basically focusing on the lower levels. And so as they focus on these low levels, they're not really vibrating at a high level. This is why when you're on retention, your aura, your energy level increases, and people notice that. They see that because you're keeping that energy within you. And the thing is that many of us, because of our egos or our false self, not the self that we really are, but the one we're trying to communicate out to the public, that creates a low level energy, because that's not really you. That you maybe want to tell people this is you, people wearing sunglasses, hiding themselves, not being who they really are, in the subway and things like that. But that's not really you. You are the person who is inside of all that with God, and God knows who you are. So that's one idea. What you really want to do and goal is you want to try to get to the highest frequency you can. Now, we don't always do that, and so early in the morning like we are now, I'm still kind of getting up and moving myself around. So the energy level is not going to be as the highest right at this moment, but you can see this in people. And I know that you can, see this as you go longer on retention. And I've seen that. People have told me that. And I have witnessed myself, when I look at myself even 2, 3, 5 years ago, I see a big difference in energy level, the aura, those things around you. So this is a key type of point that you want to vibrate at a higher energy. So the whole idea, as Dex is asking about this, of God consciousness, is the idea that you want to be able to vibrate at a higher energy. And you can't possibly do that if you keep your energy out there and it's always out there. And it's not inside of you. You're not transmuting it inside of yourself. And that's the key. So a lot of the key is that. And so it's a big connection between the two. Now, I didn't see any kind of mention within the book about retention, but certainly it plays a key role. Because anytime you can kind of increase your vibrancy, your vibration, and your energy level, well then of course you're going to be a lot more attractive, and people are going to like you. All those type of things happen. So that's a positive. Okay, so Christ consciousness is something, and this is another comment that I'm looking at this thing. Christ consciousness is given to you by the Creator. The Creator wants you to align with the Creator. So I guess you could look at this in a long-term type of sense and say, okay, when you're looking at Christ or God, your Creator, depending on what religion you have, that person has given you a certain level of frequency, okay? And when you're at that level of frequency, this is the alignment that your Creator wants you to have. You want to have that level of Christ, that consciousness. Now, it just doesn't belong to Christians. Even though it may be manifested through Christ at one point, it is something that is for all people. Every one of us has the ability to do this, because we have God within us. We cannot be excluded from God. We cannot be outside of God. We are inside. God is inside of us. And because of that, we have to try to align ourselves with God and the person who created us. So, how do we do that? Well, obviously, the higher our frequency level is, the closer we get. And this is why, as time goes on, the longer you can keep your energy, and we say 12 years, it probably, it may not be an exact amount. Those are the kind of numbers that I had, put together and I've seen that people have talked about over the years. But the idea is that it's a long period of time as you build. It's almost like you're coming to the alignment. It's almost like there's two alignments happening here, okay? You begin your birth at a certain alignment, and God has given you this sort of alignment, and as time goes on, you get to that alignment. And I really believe that is the case. I think as time goes on, and you could call it different things. You could talk about, God's purpose for you, the plan, all those type of things for you. But the bottom line really is the idea that God is in you trying to create that energy level, that frequency level, to align with what his purpose is. And that's been said in so many different ways over the years that it's hard to kind of deny that. You're here for a purpose, and I believe a lot of us, we probably rebel against that purpose for many years. I know I did. And whether it comes to retention or anything else, but to know what God's real purpose is, you have to go on one of these streaks and be pure. And part of being pure is not letting those low energy types of things affect you. And as you raise your energy up, you're not going to be affected as much by the low energy. And I think that's one of the things that you have to kind of see. The longer you're on this streak, the less you're going to have issues with the low energy. Now, in my case, having 45 years or so of these struggles, it is more difficult for me because I built a habit of going back and forth. It's much more difficult for somebody like myself to actually start building because I have such a habit of going back and wasting energy. Now I'm approaching like 746 or something like that today, and close to 750 days. It's at the point where I'm starting to see some change, but it's hard not to fall back into thoughts and temptations. And you have to kind of look at that and say, okay, I need to continue to do the things I'm doing to kind of get myself back in the right frame of mind, in the right frequency. And that's a key type of thing. So let me see if I have notes on this one. It does not belong to Christians. We talked about that. And you have to kind of reject low-level thinking. And so some of you probably read about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You probably have seen different types of things talking about low-level types of things that we have. But the key really is that you got to think more in terms of the bigger picture. What is God's vision for you? What's your alignment? And the more you think about that, the less you're thinking about the low-level types of things. Now, if you're in a state where you need those things, you're going to focus on those type of things. If you need money, if you need food, those type of things. But I'm not really talking about that for the most part. I'm talking about trying to kind of look at what is your purpose, your life. And so for someone who's younger, this is a little more challenging. And you want to make sure that you're focusing on those things that kind of bring you to a state where you're focusing on that higher frequency. You're not focusing on that low level of frequency. All right, what other notes do I have here? Let's see. You have to kind of reject that low level of frequency. And one of the things you cannot, once you hit higher levels, it's very difficult to go back to the low levels. Now, you may have bouts at times where you go back, but you're going to continue to push ahead. And obviously, God is with you, with you. There's anything else I want to do. And the whole key, guys, to this whole thing is that as you become better, and you want to become better with yourself at the higher frequency level, you're going to move past some bottom level thinking. I mean, bottom level thinking is basically just thinking we're walking around this earth, we're the ones in control, it's our ego, we are the people who are in charge of the world, things like that. just common sense tells you you're kind of a puny little thing compared to everybody else, everything else around you. And so you cannot be in that kind of control. You could probably control certain things around you, but when it comes to controlling the world, the earth, things like that, people get very frustrated because they want to dominate and they want to have some level of domination, but they really can't. And that's a huge problem. So when we look at this whole type of thing, it's important to realize that we're all trying to get to being Christ conscious. Whether we're Christians or not, we all have that within us. And that whole consciousness, the whole frequency, the whole level of that is something that is important because you want to realign yourself before, as you go along through your life, to God's purpose, to God's frequency. And once you're at that frequency, then you know His plan for you, and now it's almost like you're flowing with nature. You're aligning yourself with nature, and you're aligning yourself with those things, and so things come easy, and you're not struggling. This is, I think, the problem most of us have, is that we're not in line with our Lord, and we're not in line with our Creator. And so because that's the case, all of a sudden we're fighting that all the time, and we're battling and rebelling against it, and I did that for years. All right, so enough for today. We're going to do more practical talk about this Christ consciousness tomorrow. But great question, Dex. Thank you for that question. And we're going to do part 2 tomorrow. So until tomorrow, guys, this is June 21st, 2022. God bless you guys. Have a great day and battle on.